Hello, welcome to Poker Room Review. Today we're going to answer one of your questions, this time asked by Hill Kid Poker, who says, please tell us about the top 5 countries to relocate for poker players online and live. Now I'm going to skip over the online bit today because I want to do a lot more research about the different platforms that are available in different jurisdictions, the tax regimes that are surrounding it, the legal frameworks involved. But when it comes to live poker, I think we can have a chat about that. Now, I'm not going to rank the top 5. What I'm going to do is talk about the various considerations that you should be thinking about when considering moving to another country for the poker ecosystem. And depending on those combination of positives and negatives, some of them will be more right for you than perhaps others. The first thing to think about is the availability and legality of poker in the country you're thinking about moving to. Now, there are plenty of professional poker players who make a living exclusively from underground home games. I'm not going to recommend that to you, either publicly or privately, just simply because the safety questions involved. For you, lawfulness, the potential for being ripped off, extorted, bribes, the criminality aspect, all of those things can make it really dangerous. Now, I'm not saying that every home game is like that. What I'm saying is it creates an atmosphere of risk that isn't necessary given you're already willing to travel internationally for poker. You might as well go a place where it's perfectly legal. The second thing to think about is the visas that are open to foreigners. So let's say you are a European and you have an EU passport. Well, as you know, you could move around in the Shenzhen area extremely easily. But for foreigners outside of the EU, will only have limited time that they can travel visa-free, and they might need to find other visas, other ways of staying in that particular country, which they may not be able to do. Another thing to think about is the cost of living. The supply side in terms of the games availability, what games are on offer, that's a big factor. But if you cannot beat the game in such a way that it covers all of your many expenses, transportation, food, accommodation, all the different living expenses, then it's not going to be right for you. Another thing to think about is safety. People have different risk tolerances. If you're a young man, intrepid, still exploring the world, then perhaps your actual risk awareness or risk tolerance just is a little higher than someone who's retiring, wants to be in a comfortable environment, doesn't want to worry about any crime, have access to really good health services. Those things really weigh into your decision and will vary from person to person. So with some of those factors in mind, let me go through a few really good, attractive options. The first is the Philippines. The Philippines is one of my favorite poker destinations, period. And first of all, poker is ubiquitous. There are many, many card rooms throughout the country, both in Manila and Cebu and Davao as well. There are wonderful visa options. If you're a foreigner, it's quite easy to extend your time in the Philippines near indefinitely, and you get more benefits the more time you spend in the country. So eventually you'll get an alien card. Eventually you'll be able to open local bank accounts. All of those things are excellent. Service provision. If you're in one of the major cities, your access to health services, to technology, all of that is great. And the English quality is fantastic. Everyone learns English in the public education system. So the Filipinos speak very good English and they are very friendly people. In fact, that is a universal thing that everyone says. Anyone who talks about Filipino travel destination, the friendliness of the locals is a major factor. And there are so many exotic things to explore. So if you're based in, let's say, Manila, well, there's something like 8,000 islands in that archipelago for you to go travel around. Very little expense. Now, one of the other benefits that everyone talks about is the low living expenses of the Philippines. Now, that is easy to overstate because you will want to have a comfortable Western standard of living, which will come at a premium. You will want to have the best internet connections. You want to have access to all the high quality restaurants and foods. You want to be in the safe areas that are close to the major casinos and poker rooms. So all of that comes at a premium. But even with all of those things in mind, it's still going to be quite a bit cheaper than if you were living in the United States or most of Europe or Australia. Now, when it comes to the games themselves, poker is extremely popular in the Philippines and growing all the time. We've done many reviews of various poker rooms that we would encourage you to check out for more information on that. And yet there are, of course, drawbacks to the Philippines. Most of them are niggles that kind of weigh on people more and more over time. I know many people who have come to play poker in the Philippines from Germany or Canada or other parts of the world who stay for about 4 or 5 years and then get really homesick because the things that were quirky at first can really build up over time. So for example, the traffic in Manila is extremely challenging. It takes a long time to get anywhere. Also, in terms of the quality of the food and the ingredients, you can definitely find the best places, best restaurants, but you'll find that it gets a bit narrow and repetitive over time because it's just making sure that you go to those places that are always reliable. And it tends to be a little bit habit forming. One day you can start to feel like it blends into the next. Other minor issues as well. It can take a while to fix things. If the power goes out or there's an issue with your internet or something, getting those things repaired. When you go to a restaurant, there are little idiosyncrasies. So a lot of things on the menu won't be available every day. You'll go, can I have this? And they'll be like, oh, sorry, not available, Paul. And then you just keep going down the list until you find the one thing that you can actually eat. So there are just these little things in the Philippines that you either love or at least get it used to. It doesn't bother you at all. But for some people, the barriers there can really be quite challenging. So what I would say is test your time in the Philippines for a few months and see how you go. Don't shift everything over in one go. Make sure that you've spent enough time in the Philippines to get a sense of what the daily grind will be like. Another great, interesting option is Malta, that beautiful country island in the middle of the Mediterranean. The weather is absolutely superb. Valletta is one of the most gorgeous settings anywhere on earth. It is a wonderful place just to be and to walk around. Now, it can feel a bit isolating, of course, because you are on a small island in the middle of the sea. But if you get over that, it's a wonderful place to explore. There's a huge amount of history. We've done some reviews on Malta. And if you can find a place to live that's affordable and you're happy with that environment, then it is going to be really great and suited to you. The drawback is the game availability. Poker only kicks off in the evenings, usually around 7:30, and outside of the major poker festivals, it's only going to be at probably 2 or 3 venues. And thus, if you're a professional poker player, then it's going to be really unsociable hours when you're playing in Malta. But on the flip side, the setting is just gorgeous. I mean, take Dragonara, for example. You're playing out on a peninsula with beautiful windows all the way along. You can look out at the open sea. You see the ships come in and out. It's just breathtaking. So if you just want a more relaxed atmosphere, laid back, and of course the Southern European food, hospitality, you can't really do better than that. So if you're looking for a lifestyle, if it's poker for you is about freedom and you've perhaps got a bit more of a bankroll, a bit more resources, then Malta is a great choice, provided you can handle just playing at night. But of course, Malta has some challenges as well. One of them is a bit of an overcrowding problem. They have a 20% rise in their population just in the last few years. All of that drives up the cost of living, particularly when it comes to accommodation. Accommodation costs in the peak season can really spike as well. So keep all those things in mind. And yet its connectivity to the rest of Europe as member of the EU. If you are someone traveling on an EU passport, then it is a great option for you to go and live in Malta. If you are not from the EU, then I believe that Malta has some additional visa options if you're willing to invest significant sums of money in the local economy. Otherwise, you're going to be faced with the same sort of Shenzhen restrictions as other non-EU citizens. Okay, moving back to Asia, I also want to give you an honourable mention. And this one will be particularly appealing for older players, people who are looking for retirement, perhaps people looking to move somewhere for their retirement and just love to play poker, want to play poker every day. And that is South Korea. South Korea already has a massively aging population and therefore the best health services anywhere in the world. So that is great. In terms of safety, there is no poker destination on earth that is safer than South Korea. Crime is near zero. You are going to not only be safe, but feel safe. And thus, when you go and play poker, it's going to be great. You can play poker at the Paradiso Casino right near the airport as well. So if you live out at Incheon, then you have the connectivity to the rest of Asia and the rest of the world because you're going to be really close to the airport. And there are constant shuttle buses between the airport and the casino. There's only limited venues available for playing in South Korea because the casinos are foreigner only. So you'll go to the casino and it'll mostly be Chinese and Japanese citizens, people from other parts of Asia and the rest of the world. You won't find South Koreans playing there, which can be a bit discombobulating when you're in this massive mega city of Seoul and yet it's only a relatively small poker scene. That said, South Korea has something that appeals for everyone. Fantastic food, Korean barbecue. They take great deal of care and pride in their other cuisines as well. Wonderful shopping and gifts. And the cost of living in South Korea is not as high as one would expect relative to the first world living standards that you absolutely experience. One of the challenges though, language barrier. Not everyone speaks English in South Korea. It can be quite challenging. Even in the casinos where the staff need to speak some English, the primary foreign languages typically are Mandarin and Japanese. So English can be a challenge, a bit of a language barrier. And of course, Korean is extremely difficult for foreigners to learn. So just keep that in mind. And then also weather can be a bit of a matter of taste because the different seasons are extremely dramatic. The difference between winter, which is extremely cold, and summer, which is stiflingly humid and hot, is quite radical. Now, many people like that, the different seasons where you've got all the cherry blossoms come out in spring and the wonderful autumn, fall. I love that stuff too, but not for everybody. Some people like the kind of stability of the same temperature all year round, which you'll get in the tropical climates of the Philippines, and some people like these much bigger ranges like in Korea. This next option is one that I recommend for higher stakes poker players, and that is London in the UK. First of all, London has many poker rooms. You've got the Hippodrome, Empire, Grosvenor, Aspers. They're all fantastic and they run many games pretty much all of the time. There are many foreigners and tourists that are going and playing, just coming in off the street. So it is a great place to get into the poker scene, but also be able to make a living. The drawbacks are the high cost of living in the UK. Everything costs in money in pounds. It's a massively overpopulated city with extremely expensive rent prices. Some of the transportation costs, just everyday expenses, really add up quickly. And thus you need a much higher than average bankroll to sustain yourself as a professional poker in London. And yet at the same time, it is really good for the semi-professional type. So let's say you are someone who's a lawyer or has some other professional career and you manage to get a job in London, UK. Well, the poker scene is really good for augmenting your professional income because you're in a first world massive metropolis with a huge finance sector, and you can go and play poker in the evenings and weekends and make extra money that way. However, if you're a full-time professional, you're going to have a much higher than average bankroll in order to not only withstand the swings, but cover your expenses while you're doing so. That said, it's also a world city that is a major international travel hub. London has something like 5 or 6 international airports within a 80-kilometer radius, and you can get literally anywhere on Earth, typically with a single flight. If you're going to the Bahamas or India or East Asia, you can definitely get there from London. So it's a really great place if you find poker series coming up. Well, travel is relatively inexpensive, and certainly going anywhere else in Europe. Naturally, there's no language barrier if you're an English speaker, and of course the food, all of the facilities, the internet, all of that is absolutely first rate. And the other drawback with the UK is the visa situation. The government is cracking down more and more on migration. It's a much more sensitive issue in the UK than it has been in the past, especially since the UK has left the EU. You don't get those Shenzhen benefits. And so many people who want to be professional poker players, well, they'll perhaps enroll full-time in a tertiary course or something that allows them to get a student visa where they're not really working in a normal job. They can actually go play poker, which isn't going to affect them at all. The tax regime in Britain is also excellent for poker players. There's no gambling taxes in the UK as far as I'm aware. And then one last benefit about the UK is taxes. If you are a tournament professional, if you win a big tournament, as far as I understand it, you're not paying any taxes on gambling winnings. That's certainly the case in Australia, and I believe it's the case in the UK as well. However, if you're a British citizen, you have one additional benefit that us Australians do not have, and that is the UK has a tax treaty with the United States. Okay, so let's talk about the United States for a minute, because obviously that is the poker mecca of the world. It has by far and away the largest number of venues, games, tables running 24 hours a day all across the country from east to west. You've got Florida in the east, Atlantic City, New Jersey, Maryland, and then in the west you've got California and Vegas, and then all across the Midwest as well. There are endless amounts of choice, and the reason why I haven't done many reviews from the United States is not because I don't think it's a great option. It's just that when I go to the US next, it's going to be for an extended period of time so that I can hit all of the rooms along the way. If you are a professional poker player, then coming to the United States is going to be one of your golden options. That said, I would recommend that you travel to some of the lesser known places around the United States. Find a location that really suits you, that the people you really vibe with, and settle down there. Try and avoid Vegas at the moment, which is going through a massive self-inflicted depression. If you check out any of the YouTubers online who do tours of Vegas and showcase the city, they will tell you that the casinos have been ripping people off left and right with hidden fees and bad games to the point where the numbers have fallen off a cliff. Word has gotten around that Vegas has become a ripoff. It wasn't always that way, and hopefully it'll go back to the more festive, welcoming place that people want to go back to again and again. But right now it's really not the best time. So the cost of living is elevated because of those extra fees. And at the same time, the amount of players that are going there means the ecosystem is much weaker than it historically was. Add to the fact that it's also just a very obvious location for professionals to go, so the games can be quite challenging. Find another location in the Midwest, some places that people don't typically go, that are filled with salt of the earth people who you can really just feel relaxed around and have everyday conversations. You'll do much better there. Now, of course, the United States comes with its own set of challenges. Staying there for long periods of time, you need to make sure that you have the right visas in place, and also the cost of healthcare and other services. If you're a professional poker player, that's all out-of-pocket expenses. You really need to factor those in before considering being a professional poker player in North America. Make sure you've got all the relevant insurances and you're doing everything the right way. And there are some other niche locations. So Mauritius in the Indian Ocean has a poker scene. There's Goa in India. There's the Genting Highlands in Malaysia. Of course, there's poker all over Australia, except in Australia, the cost of living and rake is prohibitively high. There's New Zealand with a lot of good games, but also has very high living expenses. But to summarize the five, but in no particular order, I'd say the Philippines, South Korea, Malta, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Those are the best locations in order to be a professional poker player, but they each have different benefits and drawbacks and will appeal to different player segments. So if relaxation, safety, cleanliness, professionalism is your jam, then South Korea is a great option. Dynamism and exciting living and great possible ways of grinding your way up through the stakes, the Philippines is a good option. If you're already a high stakes professional and want to have easy access to all different parts of the world, then London is a great option. And if you're looking for a new place to perhaps settle down, find a place in rural United States where you can become part of the community as well as play poker, and you'll have some of the cheapest rate and best people around you anywhere on earth. Those are some recommendations. I would love to hear yours down below. And also, if you're a professional poker player who's been from some other part of the world, perhaps you play at King's Rosvadov or you live in Spain, and you want to give some of the pros and cons of being a professional in those locations or somewhere else in the world, I'm sure everyone would love to hear about your experiences. So please leave your comments down below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.